Alright guys, Dokkan time, and I want to start off by saying I had a really hard time figuring out what I wanted to do with Videl as far as build suggestions went. And it actually was kind of difficult for me to pick and choose, and you'll notice there's only two choices here. There's a 55 and there's one with dupes. You'll notice that there's not really much of a difference in those builds, and you're probably wondering, Joe, why aren't you suggesting dodge? Well, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna discuss this. So, Videl has very little options here, especially on global. So on global, she has no 200% options other than Gogeta and Yamcha, which, you know, isn't terrible. You know, Gogeta's fine for most dodge or die advocates. Me not personally, though. On JP, she does have the option of running with Roshi, which I will hopefully pull once he releases on global. You know, if I can, I can save some frickin' stones and money. Doesn't appear like that's gonna be the case though. But anyways, as far as anything else goes with her, she's a Dragon Ball Seeker 130 lead. She raises attack and defense for 1 turn, greatly lowers attack, and has a 50% chance of greatly lowering the enemy's attack again. Very interesting. Not sure why they've decided to move forward with that kind of mechanic. Attack and defense 200% plus additional attack and defense 200% when performing a super. Randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to tech key spheres. 30% chance to dodge. Dragon Ball Seekers are Earthbred fighters. Categorized key +2, attack and defense plus 40% plus additional key +2 when the character is in the second to obtain key. And an additional attack and defense plus 60% when the character is third to obtain key spheres in a turn. Reduces damage received by 20% with each attack performed up to 40% as the second attacker in a turn, and chance of evading enemies' attack including super attack plus 20% with each attack performed up to 40% as the third attacker in a turn. Her links aren't that crazy. She's got Cold Judgment and Battle Diva. Everything else in here is pretty much garbage, and she won't be linking up with anyone. Dragon Ball Seekers, Earthbred Fighters, Peppy Gals. Her primary teams that she's really going to be on is just straight up Earthbred Fighters. Peppy Gals are movie heroes. The rest of them will be very niche kind of throw-ins. You'll be floating with her majority of the time. As far as like her partners go, she doesn't really have link partners, and I think that's fine because she's not meant to. Oh, okay, let's not do that. She's not meant to really be doing such a thing like that. She's not meant to be doing anything but floating, in my personal opinion. So the reason I had issues with like building her, I would have released this days ago, but in my head I just kept thinking a full dodge. Why would I go full dodge? Should I go full dodge? Should I go full additional? Should I go full dodge? Should I go full additional? Before I get to the reasonings for that, let's look at Halvard's defense. So, as you can see, she does have a pretty decent defense margin there. You know, if she double supers with support, she can have 1.1 million defense. That's not terrible. That's not really not. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. In slot 3, you know, she has the most chances of having the highest defense. She's offering 60% support in slot 3. But, you know, post-super with no real damage reduction, no guard, only being 800k. I mean, she's not saving you. She's getting you killed no matter what, virtually, in most content, with how low her defense is, actually. You know, everyone, I'm sorry, but 9th Anniversary really threw a curveball at the meta, and, I mean, we're not taking 1.5 mils anymore. We're not taking less than 2 million damage. We're taking 2.5, 2.7, 3, 6 million damage from fights now, and 1.3 for a banner unit. You know, we need some more damage reduction behind there. So you have really two options of how you want to use Videl. She has good defense. In slot 2, hope that she double supers, and you'll have 40% damage reduction, and more than likely, you can survive a good amount of damage. Really, you can. Really, you can survive a good amount. But otherwise, you won't be getting the 60% support. You'll only be providing 40% support to your allies in that case. And she's not really linking well with anybody, so I don't know why you would put her in slot 2, because she's not being a link battery. In fact, putting her in slot 2 in the majority of teams will probably just be neutering a lot of the units because you're not sharing links with almost anybody. Her primary focus should be in slot 3 getting that 60% support and dodging, or you might just die. So my logic came here was the fact that she has chance of evading enemies' attack, including super attack, plus 20% with each attack performed. It's not super attack, it's just attack performed. Up to 40% as a third attack on turn. So you have your base super. So no matter what, once she supers one time, that's 20% dodge. Okay? 20% dodge on top of the 30 she already has. So that's 50% chance to dodge right off the bat on her initial super attack. If she gets an additional attack off, it doesn't matter if it's a super attack, she will get another 20% dodge chance. Now, because of the way that it's calculated, she'll actually have 70% chance to dodge. The reason I decided to go for full additional with her is because her additional chance is higher than her hidden potential capability of dodge chance. So let's say theoretically you went with dodge instead of additional, 15 dodge. That's a 15% chance to dodge on top of the 50% chance that you already have. Okay? Okay? So, you know, unfortunately it doesn't add up like that because it's the hidden potential and it's separate. So you would have a 50% chance to dodge, and then you'd have a 15% chance to dodge. So you have two chances to dodge, but one's a 50 and one's a 15%. Whereas if you do the hidden potential into additional at level 15, that's a 30% chance to additional. That's a 30% chance to additional at level 15. If you gave her 2 additional orbs to push her up to level 25 into the additional stat, she would then have a 50% chance to additional. You would literally have a coin flip to get that extra 20%, which would then be added to. You would have a 50% chance to have 70% damage reduction, is basically what I'm telling you right now. So, in my personal opinion, there is more bang for your buck by going for additional primarily. And the same thing is said even at 55%, because at 55%, you can have a level 7 additional. That's a 14% chance. If anything, for 55%, you actually have a higher... you have a better bang for your buck if you actually proc that additional. Even if it's just the normal, because it'll give you that 20% dodge chance. For a 14% chance, you'd get a 20% dodge. That's pretty nice. So, but yeah, that's why I had such a hard time with her. That's why I had such a hard time deciding on how to build her. And it's all because of this part of her passive. It's all because of this part of her passive. It really is. That's what it is. And, I mean, she's a 60% support for Dragon Ball Secret Earthbred Fighters, which is very good. It's just that she's meant to float. She's meant to be floating around, supporting allies, you know. And hopefully, even just normals, even an additional normal, to get that 70% dodge chance. Of course, give her the 15 additional and then put the rest into dodge. There is no reason to give this girl crit. There's just no reason for it. So, but yeah, math-wise, there's no reason to give her full dodge. You want to give her additional to get the better chance of having the 20% extra dodge in the passive to add on to what she already has to give her a total of 70% chance to dodge. That is the best bet. I will say, as an ending note, you can argue to say that if you went for 15 dodge and then gave her 2 more dodge equips, you know, you went for a, if you went for 25 dodge, yes, that's a 25% chance. But once again, as I will say, passive and hidden potential are separated. So you have the 50% from her passive, then you'd have the 25. So they're 2 separate procs. They're not 75%, it's 50 and 25. So I personally would rather have the 70% chance. I'm sorry if this was complicated to listen to with almost nothing on the screen to show for, but this was a pain in the butt, and I'm not even sure she was worth the virtually almost 10-minute video. So, anyways, guys, how did you build your Videl? Do you agree that you should go just additional and float her off, or did you just give her dodge anyways? Anyways, let me know in the comments below. I hope everyone has a good day and a good night.